coming, baby, riding in the sky. Well, ain't no one has told you, lady, don't look him in his eye. He's blinded, but he sees.
It all happened in New York on my 3rd birthday. They took me to see King Kong. I saw King Kong, and it changed my whole life. Like, I went home, and I'll never forget this, my first makeup job. I went home, I was always doing this real sneaky stuff. Sneaking out, you know, 4 years old, sneaking out and doing weird shit. And I'm looking in the mirror and I'm putting makeup on my face, but I'm not seeing a kid just putting black makeup on his face. I'm seeing King Kong looking at me in the mirror. I sneak into the living room, my parents are watching TV, sneak in, rah! My parents, they jump off the couch screaming. And there I am, 3 years old, stronger than I'm in control of the whole household. You know, I've transformed myself into a giant gorilla. But they were really freaked out because I just dyed my face with black leather dye, black shoe dye. I couldn't leave the house for 2 weeks. You know, we're in upstate New York and they got this kid dyed himself black. So yeah, but that was a big thing, you know. And growing up, there was always, like, on our coffee table, there was always an issue of eerie or creepy, and you know, I was allowed to watch creature features, and Godzilla was a major thing at 4 years old. I remember just bawling when the oxygen destroyer went down, you know. Why are there so many weirdos and artists from the Southeast? And it's because of Ted Turner's wonderful programming back in the early 80s. You know, we'd wake up to Little Rascals and Ultraman. Then we would go to school, and then we'd come back from school, and there would be Ultraman, Spectre Man, all, you know, Hammer film festivals. He would show Godzilla movies for a whole weekend, nothing but Godzilla movies. You know, Ted Turner was so good for us. They had me in art classes. Even though we were really poor, they would find these, like, cheap little art classes that I would always get thrown out because I was always, instead of drawing bowls of fruit, I was drawing Jaws eating, you know, naked girls on the beach or whatever, you know. Because of all the extracurricular activities I took in high school, I ended up getting a full scholarship to SCAD for illustration because of this guy, Bernie Wrightson, who I discovered him when I was like 4 years old, reading a House of Mystery. For folks who don't know Bernie Wrightson, he is a comic book illustrator that was inspired by EC Comics, like Jack Davis, who lived on St. Simon's, and I got to talk to Jack Davis. Yeah. You know, like, I had all these crazy, crazy things happen through my life. And Bernie Wrightson, though, he showed me that comic book art and lowbrow art could be fine art. He did a piece of work called, it was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and people consider it one of the greatest works of illustration of the 20th century. And it will go down in history. It will be in the MoMA. As of now, there's only one contemporary monster artist in the MoMA, and it's Lee Brown Coy, who illustrated for Weird Tales. But one day, Frank Frazetta and Bernie Wrightson are both going to be recognized as fine artists, as they were. I didn't finish SCAD because in my second year, all my professors told me to quit. Because I already had a portfolio, and I'd already been working in commercial art successfully since I was 13. You know, I had my own business, airbrushing t-shirts on the beach when I was 15. So I had amassed this huge portfolio of work, commercial work, vans, motorcycles, buildings, you know, logos for 3M, you know. So my professors beat up on me one day. They were all like, you know, I went from class to class, and they were just like, what are you doing here? So after the 7th period, when my teacher was like, Shane, I got an emergency, can you run the critique? So there I was, teaching college at 18. And after that, I walked to the dean's office and I said, I'm sorry, but I'm quitting, give my scholarship to somebody else. They're like, you can't do that. And I moved to Atlanta with $100 in my pocket the next day. My parents were pissed off. Well, in the effects world, of course, Ray Harryhausen was my god. because he was an amazing illustrator. He could draw like Dore, he could sculpt like Michelangelo, he could or illustrate like Bosch. I mean, like the stuff he came up with was just bonkers. And then he would bring them to life using stop motion techniques. I mean, this guy changed so many filmmaking techniques where his optical printing processes just went way farther than anybody else. You know, he was just a magician of the highest level. And that was another thing. I wanted to be a magician. You know, I'd put on Sunday magic shows, and that's all special effects artists are magicians. You know, Ray Harryhausen's a magician. They manipulate the environment. They fool you with a trick. And, you know, when the 80s blew up with all the special effects makeup, of course, you had Tom Savini, and Screaming Mad George was always like my favorite because he was like the Big Daddy Roth of special effects makeup. So I love all the practical rubber effects, and I use it all the time. I got to see a spook show as a kid at the Lanier Plaza. It was just some pretty bad, I couldn't tell at the time, but he was probably just some drunk magician that was just, what town am I in? But he did magic tricks, and then we saw a horror movie, and it was Quatermass in the Pit. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it was the most terrifying movie. That day was like a serious, oh man, you know. So I always searched out horror hosts. We had, you know, a horror host that we had out of Savannah, he wasn't like a horror host per se, but once again, because I studied this stuff, and over the years going to short theater, I made friends with Zachary.
Yeah, that's a boy. Wow, that's a stretch.
So I was so enamored of that I became a horror host, and I basically, you know, with Professor Morte, I basically just took things that you had to have to create the ultimate horror host. You know, I had like a fried wig like Ghoulardi. I had a fake nose like Witchy Poo. It wasn't a horror host, but it was like Saturday morning cartoon entertainment stuff I was trying to add into it. And one thing I learned from watching Zachary that was a huge thing is, here's this guy, he was 80 years old. He just died last year at 92, and he was still sharpest guy in the room. Yeah. But I was watching him, and I was like, here's this guy who's been playing this 300-year-old guy for 50 years now. He was 80. And it's genius, because now if I'm Professor Morte, I've been playing him for 20 years, or almost 20 years now, and I could play him for 30 more and nobody would know under all that makeup. Now the guy's really getting old. When I moved here, I was playing in a band that was like, it was crazy because we were kind of like the white zombie of the South, you know. So when I finally did meet up with Rob Zombie, it was really strange because we were opening up for them. And I went running in, and I was like, who's this guy nibbling my nuts? You know, kind of kidding, kind of like, what's going on? And he jumps up, and we're looking at each other, and this is 1992. We've got dreadlocks down to here and tattoos. Nobody had tattoos all over. We're looking at each other like, love. You know? And he's like, how old are you? He was like 5 years old. He's like, oh, we're just lucky we like the same stuff. You know? We ended up becoming friendly, you know. One minute we're like looking at each other like we're gonna fight or something, and it's like, we like the same stuff, let's hang out.
I can't resist you walking here.